Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it may be when you guys are tuning into this broadcast. I am your international award-winning author, literary extraordinaire, and awe-inspiring coach, Toneal M. Jackson. But as I always say on Fridays, I am just your humble Green Party member broadcasting live. And with me, I am so glad to be joined by, you guys know them by now. We have Anna, David, and AJ has come back. This is the final week of our 10-week series. It's so crazy to believe that it has been 10 weeks already, but it has been. We started 10 weeks ago talking about grassroots democracy. Then we went into social injustice, followed by ecological wisdom. Then we talked about nonviolence, followed by decentralization. Then we discussed a little bit of community-based economics, followed by, I want to say, it was femininity or feminism. Yeah, feminism and gender equity. Then we talked a little bit about respect for diversity. Last week was personal and global responsibility. And so this week we will finish with the final of the 10 core values, which is future focus and sustainability. So that was a whole mouthful, but I am so glad to be here. I know my fellow panelists are glad to be here as well. And we're asking you guys, as you are coming on, that you please hit the like and share button, tag somebody that you believe will benefit from watching this broadcast. And so as I always do, I'm going to ask all the panelists to introduce themselves. We're going to start with our state party organizer, Miss Anna, and then we're going to follow her with David and then AJ. So go ahead in that order.
My name is Anna Schiefelbein. I'm the organizer for the Illinois Green Party. I've been in this position for almost a year. Love it, working with amazing people, always getting new people on board who are ready to work on these issues. So much to do. So thank you for putting the show on,
Absolutely. David, you are definitely not a stranger to this show, but for those who may have been under the rock for the last 10 weeks, tell them a little bit about who you are.
Thanks for having me back again. Yeah, I've had a great time. I've been here since the first episode of this series. My name is David Rych. I am the host of Reality Radio on 98.3 FM, WRLR out of Round Lake Beach, Illinois. I'm also a member of the Green Party, a convert from the Libertarian Party right after the election last year. I'm having a great time, feeling very welcome and things. As soon as I joined and met Anna and Alia and whomever else, you, Toneal, hitting the ground running and things are happening, and I'm very excited to be a part of it.
Awesome. AJ, it is only fitting, at least for me, that you are back for the last show. I explained to everybody the first time you were on that you were one of the first ones to welcome me as I officially joined the Green Party. So I am so glad to be able to welcome you back in joining us for the final week. So tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm glad to be with y'all again. I'm very humbled and honored to be with everyone. My name's AJ. I use they, them pronouns. I am an organizer and activist for the past 20 years. Been with the Green Party since 2007, and been involved with them in many capacities, and just your neighborhood-friendly leftist.
I love it. I love it. Neighborhood-friendly leftist. So we are going to jump right into it today, guys. The final key that we're talking about today is future focus and sustainability. So Anna, let's start with you since we're going to do a whole ladies first situation. What does that mean to you when you hear that? What immediately comes to mind?
Well, with the Illinois Green Party, the key value with future focus is looking at the next 7 generations from now, making sure that their interests are being taken care of today. For me personally, that is so true when I have an 8 and a 9-year-old child, and they're studying greenhouse gases and they're studying the environment, and we are together as a family learning about what we're doing today has an effect for tomorrow and the future generations. And so it's very, as a mom, I get to pass along new things to the children and make their generation a better generation. And so when we have going to the stores and we look at made in the USA products, and even some of the made in the USA products are plastic and they want a little ring pop. Well, I have to, as a mom, I want to teach them that plastic may never go away. It may be there in 7 generations from now or 100 years. And so I have to teach these kids, like, it's, about what are we buying as a package, and what are you getting, and where is it going to go? Because it's never going to go away. And so it's just even the little things like that, changing your perspective on packaging or what you buy, or buying only what you need and not what you want. So it's definitely a change there. And these kids, they want to learn about the environment. Why is water a concern? Why is air a concern? Why do we have to fight so hard to make sure that the air we breathe does not have any harmful chemicals in it? And so for me, for Future Focus, it is looking at their generation. It is, helping the 20 and 30-year-olds organize. It is, it's continuously learning. Everybody's learning. Everybody's growing. But it is making sure that there is something that will change, because we cannot go as a society. We cannot go much longer on plastic. We cannot go much longer on the water that we have right now. The air that we're breathing, it could be a lot better. So it is very much refreshing for me to make these changes in my household and pass along these new traits to the children.
That's awesome. AJ, why don't you jump in with what comes to mind when you hear that term?
So, I gotta say, out of all the 10 key values, this is my most favorite one, because I really feel Future Focus really summarizes what encompasses what the Green Party is about, right? But when I talk about Future Focus, when I'm doing presentations or workshops at conferences or in universities, what have you, I kind of simply explain that Future Focus is another term for building another world possible, because we have to reimagine what another world is going to look like, when it comes to, as we talked about earlier before this broadcast, what's the future look like without prisons? What does community policing look like? What does, to Anna's point, sustainability look like, from an ecological perspective? Let's reimagine what schools look like. Let's reimagine what racial, gender equity looks like. So we have to do this. And that's what separates the Green Party from the two major parties, because we're the only ones thinking about that. Democrats don't think about it. They say it, but they don't. We know how Republicans think, the last 4 years at least. So we're the only ones who think about this. We're the only party that even introduced a Green New Deal before the Democrats did it. So we introduced that a decade ago, and no one listened to us. But now, since Democrats we have something, it's yeah, but we did it, and you just water down what we said a decade ago. So we're always thinking ahead. And because the Green Party is an international party, the Green Party in the United Kingdom, the Green Party in the Netherlands, the Green Party in Japan, the Green Party in Vietnam, they're all thinking ahead, because they want to reimagine what their location is going to look like, not just next year, but even to Anna's point, 7 generations down the road.
That's awesome. And David, I saved you for last, because for me, when I hear Future Focus and sustainability, in my mind, I kind of equate some of that to do with morality. And you know how I feel about you being our morality police, as I have affectionately termed you. What comes to your mind when you hear future focus and sustainability?
Well, thanks. Yeah, it has everything to do with morality, because it has to do with like doing the right thing versus doing the wrong thing. And sustainability, by its very function and its very definition, is something is going to last a lot longer than it would with short-term methods. And of course, that's better because first of all, it's more efficient, and efficiency is definitely a system's value, and it's better for everybody in the planet along the way for a longer period of time. So everything just pointed out means better, 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 which is a moral value. We want to strive for the best, for what's better than now, always. So it very much ties into morality, and just like the sake and the health of the future of mankind, or humankind, sorry, is obviously a moral value as well, to protect our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, and so on, to give them a potential in their lives so that they can make the best lives of themselves way in the future. Obviously is a very much a morally underpinned type of thing. And like going into more specifics, like, you're not talking about plastic. Plastic is a huge issue. I mean, okay, so you want an prime example of thinking short term and causing all sorts of unsustainable problems? Climate change. Okay, climate change is here. It's real. Again, I've said it before. We got 9 years to take out 7.6% of the carbon dioxide per year, which will reduce the amount by 45% in the atmosphere overall by 2030. And then we have a little more wiggle room for 20 years to get it down to net zero. Okay, but if we don't meet that 9-year mark, that deadline, then we got to reconfigure the entire strategy. And as much as, I know I know we're dealing with a pandemic, I get that, but I'm waiting for Biden to say something about climate change, because he promised he'd do it. Okay, that's important too. If the climate goes to hell, then nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. Okay, no issue is as important as that, because it's too all-encompassing. Racial tensions won't matter, sexist tensions won't matter, pandemics won't matter. It won't matter, because you just destroyed the planet. Let me clarify. In 2030, if we don't meet the mark, it's not like all of a sudden we're going to wake up and it's a smoldering earth outside. It's not jumping over a cliff. It's just that ups the chances of things getting a lot worse a lot more quickly after that point. That's the big issue. I don't want to think you're going to wake up January 1st, 2031 if we haven't met the deadline and be like, well, it's over. But it's an important deadline to meet. Don't underestimate it as well. So there's all sorts of things that we need to do. And like, AJ said, the Democrats talk the talk, Republicans don't even bother talking the talk. The Noam Chomsky, if you're familiar with him, he's considered to be one of the greatest intellects in the world, said that he thinks that the Republican Party is actually probably the most dangerous group of people in the world because of their warmongering attitude and their denial of climate change. And if you deny climate change, you're not merely mistaken, you're dangerously mistaken. Okay? And you can't, I don't care about, obviously freedom of speech and expression and belief is very important, but you need to educate. All the information is out there, guys. Okay? 97 to 98% of the scientists in the world agree that climate change is happening due in part to, at least, human behavior. I think I've said this before too. As a bartender, I sit there and I listen to people at the bar and be like, "Oh, it's all bull crap." Blah, blah, blah. Wait, did you go to college? Sure. What's your degree in? Finance. What the hell do you know about science? Climate change is a scientific issue. So who do you go to find out about scientific issues? You go to scientists. People need to stop thinking they know more than they do and listen to the experts. Okay.
No, that's okay, because you did I'm on my soapbox. We want you on your soapbox. This is the platform. We need you to be on your soapbox, especially about this topic. But for those of you who may just be tuning in, we want to say to Rob Rich, thanks for tuning in. Those of you others who may be tuning in, say hello so we can speak back to you. But you are joining a very interesting panel right now. We are discussing our 10th key value of the Green Party, which is future focus and sustainability. sustainability. And I'm joined by Anna and David and AJ. And so this is actually a very lively topic. Just ending with kind of what you were talking about, David. I want to go back into that. And then I had a point of AJ's that I want to bring back in. But you were talking about like with climate change and how important that is. And so Anna, to you, you were kind of also talking about it with teaching your children about plastic, even down to like the candy rings, you know. Is it beyond when people hear climate change? Many people don't necessarily know how, as David would say, all encompassing that is. So once upon a time, you know, we used to hear the campaigns about recycling. So for people who are recycling, is there more that they need to do to help to change the climate, so to speak? So, and I want you to first speak on that, because again, as I've told you guys over 10 weeks, one of the things I love to do is to just be able to teach and educate people who may have never heard these terms before. This may not be what they're used to hearing about, so that by the time they're done with this show, they can know at least here is one thing that I can do by the time this broadcast is over. So Anna, go ahead and speak to that.
So things can be as small as when you're at the store and you see two different packaging, and if one's just a little bit more and you can't afford it, you know, buy the more sustainable packaging. I just switched over from liquid laundry detergent to powder water detergent that's biodegradable and 98% natural. So that was a little shift that we did, but we're doing that now on a weekly basis. So now we don't have that big jug to dispose of. We're researching recycling. Research, you know, shows, and this is not anything official yet, but research shows that recycling is not very well done. And I don't know why, if it's just not subsidized well enough, if there's not enough market, if there's other barriers, but just simply because we put it in the recycling bin doesn't necessarily mean that that item's going to actually be recycled. And so I think that's a big game changer too, because we're so used to having these items at our disposal and cooking and cleaning and just doing normal everyday activities. Well, my recycling bin gets filled up fast. And so whatever I can do in the market to reduce that packaging, buy more cardboard stuff instead of plastic, I'm always on the lookout for that, what I can do to change that. It's just a simple thing as that sometimes. Or it can be something like, if you're interested in becoming more active, join the Illinois Green Party. We're always, as AJ said, we're always thinking ahead, we're always trying to be innovative. We don't have, we're concerned about the environment. We're concerned about the future. We will research it, we will discuss it, we will organize around it. People and unfortunately, I don't think that people with parties out there are taking the actions that they need. They may be saying words, but words are just not enough at this time. We need action. We're beyond that point where some fun little buzzwords of, oh, I want to save the climate. We're past that. We've been past that point. So we need to, have more people, more politically, active people join us. We have already the wheels going. So let's get more momentum on the environmental issues and little things that we can do and big things that we can do together, because we really, I'm very concerned about air and water, and what David said, like, these are the issues. This is, out of all the issues, water, air, environment, we need that. Without these important issues, really, what will matter the most? It is the environment that matters the most, and unfortunately, we have to work so hard for it. This is it, and it is coming from kids, like, so innocent. Like, why don't we have clean water? Why don't we have clean air? And as a mom, I'm like, well, let's talk about that. So yeah, it's very interesting. So if you're interested in being politically active, come join the team. We're waiting for you.
Absolutely. AJ, go ahead and jump in with that, because I saw you nodding your head a couple of times. So go ahead and jump in with what your thoughts are, with what can we actually do.
So yeah, I just want to go back to what Dave said earlier about, conservatives and, those people who think they know best when they have like business degrees and stuff like that. I had a very interesting conversation years ago with someone who didn't understand why climate change was an issue, like why it's being brought up. And they were a conservative. And for whatever reasons, I attract conservatives and they want to tell me their woes. I'm like, whatever. And so they go, I don't understand this at all. I go, can you tell me? And I go, well, why don't you think this is an issue? And they sum it up best. They choose not to believe climate change because, especially when it comes to conservatives, they care about the money. And so if we look at places like Florida, Marco Rubio, I bet you money, Marco Rubio cares about climate change, but he doesn't care about it because he's worried that the interstate in Florida has to move 5 feet the other direction. So that means that's a financial thing for the state of Florida, and that's something they don't want to pay into. So you have to move infrastructure because of climate change. And so who are they going to blame? They're going to blame someone else, not because of the businesses that they're incentivizing and things of that nature, right? So because we have to change things because Florida is going to be flooded in the next few years. Even here in the Midwest, we have to worry about fracking of manufactured earthquakes in southern Illinois and places in Wisconsin and Iowa, what have you. Because of all that, it's a financial thing. And so they have to blame someone else because it can't be the very businesses and other entities that are manufacturing climate change to begin with. So that's the problem, And so when we talk about future focus from environmental perspective, we have to follow that money as to who's causing that problem. And now we have to think about, okay, how can we change this? And one more point. Here in Illinois, we try to put a moratorium on fracking. And it lost because Democrats and liberals wanted the regulated bill. The Green Party, SAFE in Southern Illinois, and a few other organizations said we wanted a moratorium. But there were faith organizations, there was Democrats, even Sierra Club said we wanted the regulatory bill because that makes sense and that's a win. That's an achievable win, and we're going to make that policy, and they did. And that's where politics becomes really bad, when you think a stepping stone is going to be the resolve, whereas no, we have to again reimagine what a moratorium looks like in Illinois in order for something to be better. But they choose not to do it. And that's another problem. If we cannot imagine another world possible, then why are we doing anything to begin with? And if we can't start at that premise, that we cannot imagine another world possible, whether at the local level, state level, or international level, then we might as well just keep tweeting and writing lengthy essays and doing podcasts and all this, because if we can't even just do that simple thing and make action, then we're just fooling ourselves.
Yeah. Go ahead, David. You have the final word on this portion.
You brought up an interesting point. You said something that triggered a thought, and we're talking about sustainability of the environment, which is obviously very important and a real thing. But there's other types of sustainability too. Economic sustainability is very important. To make sure that people have a very functional and secure life, so that they can again become the best person that they can become. And I think that's why we're here personally. So one of the criticisms, one of the biggest problems with capitalism is that it's just not a sustainable system. it's constantly every 8 to 12 years, it collapses at least a little bit, if not a lot. And it takes forever to get back from it. And it causes inflation galore. And it they say it solves poverty, but it doesn't. It just sort of extends the gap. It makes poverty look a little nicer, than like, having to live in, a hut or something like that. But poverty is actually more grandiose. It's just more economically relative than people think it is. Anyway, so yeah, economic sustainability is a big one too, and I think we need to start talking about that as in the Green Party as well. I know the tendency amongst the Green Party people, especially from the foundations, is more of a socialist type ideology. Excuse me. Some people don't like that word. Most people don't understand that word, and that's fine. But I think it's something we need to talk about more as well as economic sustainability, because capitalism ain't gonna cut it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's good. For those of you who may just be tuning in, we are talking about our 10th key value, which is future focus and sustainability. And I'm joined by Anna, David, and AJ. And if you've been listening to this lively discussion and you are like, oh my goodness, I definitely want in, then we encourage you to come and become a part of the Green Party by going to our website, which is www.ilgp.org. And if maybe you have some questions about things that we are discussing or how you can actually help, then you can send those questions to info@ilgp.org. And then you may say, well, you know what do you guys have coming up? Because I do want to kind of jump in and be hands-on. There's a page also, ilgp.org/events. And then finally, if you are not sure that you want to become a full-fledged member, but you do want to do something, you do want to know a little bit more, then we encourage you to volunteer and go to the website www.ilgp.org/volunteer. And so what I wanted to do next, guys, is I wanted to kind of use this concept because we've talked about in previous shows how certain ones of our, matter of fact, all of our values kind of overlap with each other, right? And so I want to kind of take it back, since this is our last key, and kind of wrap them up with each other, right? So this whole term of future focus, what does future focus and look like? Okay, so we're going to fill in the blank. What does future focus and grassroots democracy look like? So you guys see where I'm going with this. So we won't stay on each one of them long because we have 9 to go through, but we know that we do have to look at the future focus of all of these keys. So, and I'm going to start with you. Future focus as it pertains to grassroots democracy. What does that look like?
I think that would look like where we have decentralized groups ready to have a plan in place. And so to me, that would be people have the ability to do petitions. Be an empowered community group to identify problems, come up with solutions, and implement those solutions. And when they implement those solutions, they're empowered enough to bring that into their local town, into their state, into their government. And so they have all the tools that they need to be an empowered community group, know what works best in their local area, and then be able to express what that group wants up the chain.
Okay, let's make a game out of this real quick. Y'all know I'm real kind of nerdy, so go with me on this. So we're gonna build. So now, AJ, you take what does future focus with grassroots democracy. So you're gonna piggyback on that and add to that social justice. What does that look like?
So I got my pad out because I mean, this is interesting because this isn't. I don't quite think like in that terms, but I like this kind of thought process. So I guess for grassroots democracy, to kind of build on what Anna said, it is about mutual aid networks, trying to develop mutual aid networks in our communities. It's about community control, again, community policing, community governance. And if we still want to utilize capitalism, which I don't know why, but if we do more like participatory budgeting that has been done since 2006 in South America. And I know in the 50th ward in Chicago, like they started doing that. So trying to look at the budget and have the people say where the money should be moved instead of letting politicians and elected officials saying where money needs to be moved and everything. And like regarding social justice, again, that's about like racial equity, fighting for just injustices and addressing things at the intersections. When it comes to like race in the environment, LGBTQ plus issues, you know, fighting on all those fronts, because again, we do not live single issue lives.
That's awesome. So David, now if you're going with me, you know that means that now you have to build on. So now you're going to talk about what it looks like with the grassroots democracy, social justice, and nonviolence. What does future focus and sustainability look like with all of that?
I have to start with grassroots democracy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Grassroots democracy is more sustainable because the idea is like, mutual aid, like Anna and AJ said, and the fact that people get to make decisions about their own lives and participate in the policies that are made concerning them, which is going to create a lot less resentment, a lot less tension, a lot less fighting, because everybody gets to have a say in how things are designed for them. What was the second one? Social justice. Create a lot more social justice just by what I just said, because again, people get to participate and have a say in the policies concerning them. So I think that's a very definition of social justice. And then the third one is nonviolence.
You know what? I actually went out of order. Ecological wisdom is number 3.
All right, good, because I wouldn't be very good at nonviolence. Ecological wisdom. Ecological wisdom. I think that when you bring things back to a closer knit, a tighter community where you have people participating in their with one another's lives and stuff like that, I think you have a lot more innovation and creativity towards that, which is sustainable. Mostly probably because of the family unit. Parents want for what's best for their children, and when you start to think about what that means as far as agriculture and food and drink and stuff like that, it's obviously, I mean, I know everybody I talk to says, yes, of course I want organic food more. It's just too expensive. I get that. So if they had actual say in their own economic, now this is going to the economic, community economics later, but if they had their own say in these things, I think you see a huge rise in ecological wisdom, because I think people would be more apt to want to salvage their own familial lineages into the future. So they would do which is more healthy, more safe, more environmentally consistent.
That's awesome. So Anna, we're going to drop off the first one because we started the first one with you. So you have to touch on social justice, ecological wisdom with nonviolence.
Okay. Well, I want to touch back to those community groups, because to me, with nonviolence is having those empowered community groups with the consensus decision-making process. So everybody has a voice. Everybody has a seat at the table. Everybody has a voice at the table. Everybody's voice is equal at the table. There's no rank and file. There's no nepotism. There's no, oh, he's been in power for 30 years, so he's the boss of everybody. There is none of that. And so that, to me, is part of the nonviolence part of a community group, is being able to have a safe space or brave space to be able to communicate these items and what's your concerns, what are you not concerned about, and express that and to an empowered community group. And so that it also helps with building on social justice. If that local group is concerned with social justice, they can work around that issue. And the same with ecological wisdom, they can work around that issue if that's what they want. So yeah, this is a fun game. Well,
I'm trying to tell you, keeping you on your toes, a different way of looking at it. So now, AJ, we bring back to you. But before I do this, Rych says about to organize resources, to know your comrades, and to prepare for the revolution. So he's throwing in his own bits of wisdom as well. So AJ, now with you, we are building with ecological wisdom, nonviolence, and then decentralization. What does future focus look like as it pertains to those?
So regarding ecological wisdom, I think it's really to understand your local ecosystem. I mean, it's one. I mean, we should be, yes, concerned about the whole web of life, if it were. We should be concerned what's going on in the Louisiana Delta, the Bay Area, and California. Yes, we should be concerned about that. But it also starts again locally. If we understand the ecosystems of Cook County, the ecosystems over by the Mississippi River, down by Carbondale, if we understand that, then yeah, that's going to radiate from there into everything else. Because as I tell folks, because I have the Rock River right down the street from me, whatever we do in that Rock River then goes into the Mississippi River, which goes down to the Delta. And we can go Chicago from Lake Michigan to the IM Canal to Rock River. You get it. So when it comes to ecological wisdom, being future focused, we have to think about our local ecosystem first. Nonviolence starts with being civil disobedient, without being dogmatic about pacifism, because we have to be nonviolent. But if we're back in a corner, we got to take action. So we have to be nonviolent to that degree, to that level. And then when it comes to decentralization, it goes, again, how everything overlaps. Goes back to grassroots democracy. When it comes to decentralization, it has to start at the community level. So we'll start building and developing community structures first as models, and then build it from the state to the national to the international stage.
That's awesome. Now, David, you said you thought that you were getting out nonviolence, but that's okay because it's back resting at your feet. The first one you have to deal with is nonviolence, followed by decentralization, and then you get to add on one of your favorite ones, which is community-based economics.
Okay. So nonviolence is obviously more sustainable than violence because violence is destructive. And destruction is usually not sustainable. Now, nature includes destruction in its overall plan for sustainability, but nature has an infinite amount of power. Man does not. People do not. So we need to draw from the finite amount of resources that we have and understand that we are finite beings and only can do finite things. So I would promote nonviolence, obviously, as a more sustainable type of behavior, though on occasion, I'm still not sure if violence isn't something that needs to be done very infrequently. I don't know. But sometimes, the oppressor just is not listening sometimes. But always nonviolence, always first. What was the next one? Decentralization. Decentralization is one of my most favorite things in the world. It's something that I held dear to when I was actually joining the Libertarian Party and when I was looking over the platforms for the Green Party. When I saw it, I was like, oh, thank God. Because I'm not sure it's an ideology I could ever abandon. It's just too important. The decentralization of socio-political and economic power is extremely important to each individual's liberty, to their dignity, and their autonomy. To the fact that each person has free will means that they should be able to reason on their own and make a right decision with proper education. So decentralization, to have a very small handful of people up at the top in Washington, say, controlling 325 million people's lives is really just, on the face of it, is absurd. And too much power in too few hands causes all sorts of problems. Look at how bloated our military is and how disgusting our imperial actions have been over even the last century. After World War II, we had, or before World War II, we had like 14 military bases. Right after, we had like 140 across the globe. We just completely took over. All oil is based on the American dollar. We have like all this power. And now every country in the world is in one way or another subject to whatever we say. And that's not okay. That doesn't give them dignity of choice. And it causes a great deal of resentment too. And resentment causes problems. Resentment causes violence, for sure, because people aren't going to put up with it. You need to recognize the nature of human beings, the fact that we are rational, we have will, and we have free will. Okay, and these three things are essential to human beings, and that's how you should treat everybody if you want to sustain peace amongst people, because you need to treat people with the dignity of their identity in mind. What was the next one? Community-based economics.
Yep. Okay,
community-based economics. It goes back to kind of like grassroots democracy and the whole idea of keeping the systems simple is the best way to create efficient systems, is to get people knowing each other, so they can understand people's dispositions, how they're coming into the debate over whatever, or the discussion over whatever. The whole the definition of efficiency is the least amount of input with the greatest amount of output. Okay, so if you keep the system simple, there tends to be more efficiency involved. When I was studying system science, one of the, I don't know what you call it, standard adages, phrases, whatever it was, is that a sufficiently complex system tends to be more efficient when it's decentralized, because a decentralized, a very small group of people cannot control all these complex variables that are always changing. It just logistically doesn't work out. So if you keep the systems, simple enough where people can understand what's going on with all the variables involved, you're going to have a better understanding. That's going to create a lot more sustainability for sure, easily.
Awesome. Anna, we're back to you. So you get to go back with decentralization, community-based economics, and then hit us off with feminism and gender equity.
Yeah, so for sustainability and decentralization, it is to make sure that the empowered group, community group, has all the tools that they need to be able to make those decisions and make them, implement them in the elected officials, to make sure that their voice is heard. And if their voice is not heard, to vote them out, to vote out people who are not listening, and make sure that community is represented. And for community-based economics, this is also one of my favorites with sustainability. I would love to have the communities as self-sufficient as possible, to keep that money as local as possible, where the dentist pays the barbershop pays the restaurant, and you are in your community, you are supporting each other, supporting your families, your friends, your neighbors, and walking down the streets and being able to be in a safe environment that is thriving economically. And I just don't think that's what we're going to get with big box stores. I think it has to be local co-ops and local stores. So we are always trying to shop local, and instead of shopping online, just shopping local. I think it really helps out, keeps that money in there, it keeps people employed, it keeps your local community vibrant. So for me, for community-based economics and sustainability, it is to keep that money as local as possible whenever you can. And then feminism and gender equity in terms of sustainability, I think we just have to treat each other equally. We're humans, and just because you disagree with me doesn't necessarily mean that anybody should be trampled on, that anybody's rights should be hindered because of that. We should all have those equal rights, and we just have to respect each other in that way.
Awesome. So we are coming back to Asia. You're going to be able to hit on that community-based economics. I know feminism and gender equity is one of your favorites, and then you're going to cap it off with respect for diversity. Go ahead.
So again, let's reimagine of moving away from capitalism when it comes to community-based economy. Let's try and reimagine that. And I know it's going to be hard for folks, but it'll be fine. We'll be fine. We will be okay. Trust me. And so, we also reimagine, developing cooperative economics. The University of Wisconsin-Madison Center for Cooperatives had put out that cooperatives produce $65 billion in revenue in just cooperatives in the United States. And it's not just in Wisconsin, but we have cooperatives from Maine to California. They're all over. In Illinois, we have a whole bunch of them. We have rural electric co-ops. We have market co-ops. There's a Chicago market co-op there in Chicago. Dill Pickle Co-op, as well as a food co-op grocery store. 7th Street Books Seminary Bookstore is a cooperative. I'm a member of that. So we have to reimagine what that looks like. And also we need to look like how businesses are worker-led. also. So let's reimagine, like not having a boss, not having managers, that we're running everything. You know, we're running Whole Foods, we're running, you know, the auto mechanic store. Like the workers are controlling that because they're the ones at the front line when it comes to all that. I guess I'll sum up, like I said last time I was on this program for Feminism, Gender Equity. Let's reimagine that, you know, trans women are women, trans men are men. So let's reimagine, you know, trans folks in sports. Let's reimagine that. Let's also reimagine that sex work is work. You know, it's been here for a while. There's great organizations in Chicago like SWAP, Sex Worker Outreach Project, and they're trying to reimagine, like, what does harm reduction look like? You know, let's just reimagine, like, what does an actual society looks like when it comes to feminism, having a feminist mindset, as well as striving towards gender equity, and then like respect for diversity. Again, look, we have to learn about the intersections of oppression, because again, I'm a broken record, and I love being this kind of broken record of we do not live single issue lives, folks. We don't.
We don't.
I don't. No one on this panel lives single issue lives. You know, we all have our thing. And the best analogy I've heard is we all climb mountains. Each one of us have mountains. Some of us climb more mountains than others. And we're tired of climbing each mountain, just like happened this past week with our Asian brothers and sisters.
Mm-hmm.
Since 2010, Asian Americans, 21% of Asian Americans have left Illinois. Since 2010.
Wow.
So we have to understand why that's a thing. So yeah, let's reimagine what an actual society, when we actually understand what racial equity looks like.
That's awesome. David, we come to you with feminism, respect for diversity, and personal and global responsibility. What does the future focus of that look like? Or those, what does that look like?
Okay, well, again, going back to the sustainability of just socializing, social networks, if you will. Feminism and gender equality tie into this tolerance, again, treating into each individual with their own dignity and ability to choose for themselves and to be able to express their talents and their skills for their own benefit and the benefit of society at large. The ostracization or the marginalization of women in the past from doing certain, you know, holding certain positions or jobs or whatever else, based on the fact that they were just because they're women, is just, it doesn't make any sense. Like, you know, if somebody can do something, you need to give them the opportunity to try to do it. That's in sports, that's within everything else. You know, like if a woman can play at a professional football, why would you not let her if she can do it? If they can, you know, whatever sport, okay, like, you know, just because she's a woman is not in and of itself a rational justification for excluding them from anything. And I'm not denying biological differences either. You know, those exist, but I think that we over exaggerate the quality of those biological differences. Women have babies, men don't. Okay, I get that. Does that mean that all women are better parents? No, probably most. In my experience, most are. Mothers are much better than fathers, in my experience. But it definitely doesn't have to be that way. Is my point. That has to do with a lot of traditional conditioning as well. So the sustainability of just society at large is to, again, give each individual their own ability to choose for themselves and express themselves the way they want, if they can and want to. So, I'm sorry, I thought somebody was trying to say something. Okay, so what was the next one?
Respect for diversity and the
everything I just said about feminism and gender equality is the same thing with respect for diversity, exactly the same thing. So,
and then personal and global responsibility.
Personal and global responsibility, also a big one too, okay? Because our accountability, as moral agents are kind of having free will. We wouldn't be moral agents if we didn't have free will. We would just be robots who were designed to do things. So like being that we have free will, we're moral agents, we're accountable to two different sets of things in general, ourselves and everything else. So, in a sense, every action you make, every behavioral type you express has a moral underpinning to it. So we're responsible for everything we do, and it's all as an individual, you're accountable. And that's one of the things that ties into like the problems with like sexism and racism and stuff like that, is that it's considering individuals as merely part of a collective. That's kind of like the basic formal definition of racism. It's like you're treating an individual person due to the color of their skin as merely a part of a collective of all people with that same color of skin, as if each one in that collective behaves the same way, which isn't obviously the case. The only thing that all Black people have in common is that their skin is darker than white people. That's about it. Everything else is just cultural or individually based. So again, going back to sustainability and personal accountability and global accountability, is that you're responsible for everything you do, and you're responsible to each other. You are accountable to each other. That's the global part. That's a part of morality. It's one of the reasons why I don't even think we need governments or laws. Morality will take care of all of that. Okay, that's what morality does. You just need to really kind of study it and tap into it. So.
Well, guys, give yourselves a round of applause. You made it through that. That was totally impromptu, but you guys did a phenomenal job, like really summing up 10 weeks in about 20 minutes. So that was awesome. And I wanted to just recap really quickly for those who may just be watching, the fact that even though, yes, it may seem overwhelming that there are 10 key issues, understand that one of the reasons why they roll off the tongue so quickly, grassroots democracy, social justice, ecological wisdom, nonviolence, decentralization, community-based economics, feminism, and gender equality, gender equity, race, respect for diversity, personal and global responsibility, as well as future focus and sustainability, is because there are overlaps. So many times, if you were paying attention, so many times when we talked about one issue, by default, you automatically had to encompass another 1, 2, 3, or even 4 issues. And so there's something that AJ said that I definitely have to quote it. We do not live single issue lives. And so if we don't live single issue lives, that's more the reason why you do want to become a Green Party member, because we make sure that we're taking care of that. Whatever issue that you have, we have a key for that. We have a value for that. We have a plan in action that we're trying to execute for that. So again, we do ask that you become a member. Join us, www.ilgp.org. If you are as passionate about the Green Party as we are, regardless of what the key is, we invite you to come and be a member. Again, that's www.ilgp.org. And then we do have some upcoming events. And if you want to know about those, you can go to www.ilgp.org/events. But I do want to take the time to make mention, there are 2 events, and I'm going to give them to Anna to talk about them specifically. But I know March 27th and April 17th are dates that if you are a Green Party member, you have those marked on your calendar. Go ahead, Anna, and tell us a little bit about those.
So March 27th is our membership drive kickoff. It's also Earth Hour in the evening. So we're going to have an event in the afternoon of March 27th. Our first week, we're going to focus on Bring a Friend. So it's going to be exciting. So we're asking our Illinois Green Party members to bring a friend to sign up and talk about green-friendly issues. And we'll do more than just talk. We're going to be doing petitions throughout the weeks. We're going to be organizing. We have some great things coming out. And then April 17th is our spring convention, and we're having a police reform and community workshop. It's going to be kind of all encompassing with the community. It's not just going to be community organizing. We're going to be looking at community economics. We're going to be looking at community different ways to do community organizing. So it's going to be really neat. Sign up at, I feel like I'm taking your job when I announce the website.
No.
GDP.org/events. So sign up. You know what to do. Email us if you have any questions.
Absolutely. info@ilgp.org. If I don't know anything in my sleep, I can just about say that www.ilgp.org website in my sleep. AJ, do you have anything that's coming up that you would like for us to know about or that you want to announce?
Surprisingly, no. I usually do, but I don't.
Not this. Well, you know what? We want to thank you so much for joining the panel. Anytime Toneal Talks Politics, you are more than welcome to be a panelist. We so appreciate all the wisdom and the various perspectives that you do bring to the panel. And last but certainly not least, David, we know you have a show that's coming up on Tuesday, so why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
Thank you. It's I've had a blast on this series, seriously. And if I can continue on, I would love to. But again, I have a new job coming up. I'm not sure what my schedule is going to be, but we'll see. Next Tuesday, 5 to 7 p.m. Central Time on 98.3 FM, the Voice of Lake County, WRLR. Reality Radio is the name of the show. I have Alan Axelrod, who's coming on for the first hour to discuss some new shenanigans in legislation concerning utilities and the ability for the utility companies to shut off your utilities if you can't pay for it. I hope I'm getting this right. It was a very complex story he gave me. I think I'm getting the gist right, and that there's no governmental benefit help if you can't pay for it. So in a sense, you're just sort of screwed. He'll be on to talk about that. The first hour. The second hour, I have Nick Greco, who is a PhD, I believe, in psychology. He's going to talk about suicide, which is obviously very important. There's a lot of unintended consequences of the lockdowns, the quarantines, and so on. And domestic violence rates are up, overdose rates are up, opioid drug abuse is up, divorce is up, and suicide is up as well. So that's two very important things to discuss next week for sure. So please tune in if you can.
Absolutely. And again, thank you so much, David. These 10 weeks have flown by, but they have definitely been a blast. So I don't know. Anna's going to be working with me behind the scenes. We will figure out what's coming next because Toneal will still continue to talk politics. I just will not be talking the 10 key values, at least on this show specifically, but we will continue to do this because this is what we do. So we don't just talk the values, we live them. And so again, that's why we invite you guys to join. If you are as passionate about one or all of these 10 key values, then we do invite you to join the Illinois Green Party. And just really quickly, if you guys do follow me on my page, I do go live at 5. Typically, this week I didn't, but I typically am live at 5 Monday through Friday with a variety of different shows. Monday, I do Catching Up with History. Tuesday are my review days. Wednesday, I give a word to the wise. Thursday is aspects of entrepreneurship. And as you all well know by now, Friday, Toneal Talks Politics. So I do invite you guys to join me live at 5 on those days. And as a final note, I worked on a project where I helped to produce a project, and it will be released as a comedic short that is called Social Less. And even though it is a comedic short, it is discussing a very real topic of social media addiction. And so there are a lot of people who are actually addicted to social media, and it has worsened, obviously, since the pandemic. And so that's what you're going to hear about with that short, and it releases next Friday. So in either case, guys, believe it or not, this has been our hour already. So we want to leave one more time, making sure you know that website, put it on the screen, and it wouldn't be right if we didn't give it to you one more time. www, I almost feel like this should be a sing-along, www.ilgp.org. Right? Now it's time to say goodbye, but no. So www.ilgp.org if you want to join us. Jot down those those 2 dates, March 27th as well as April 17th. We would love to have you join us for both of those things and everything in between. But we want to thank you all so much for tuning in. We hope that you have learned something, not just individually about these core values, but also as it pertains to the Green Party and what it does mean to be green. So thank you guys so much. And until next time, you all stay inspired.
All right.